September 2nd, 2002, the Diamondbacks were playing the Dodgers, and they were getting crushed. I mean, the Dodgers were putting it to them. It was 18-1, and it got into the last inning of this horrendous game. And the coaching staff didn't want to waste any of their pitchers in the bullpen on this meaningless game. So they made this huge call. They called in their third baseman, Mark Grace, to finish the game. Well, with Pastor being away from us today, I don't know if he didn't want to waste his bullpen of preachers, but he called in the third baseman. So I'm here today, and Lord willing, it's going to turn out better for me and you than it did for Mark Grace on that day. But Pastor is away from us. His son is being ordained at his church there in Tennessee, so it's a great time that he could be as a pastor, yes, and as a parent. So he was going to bring someone in, but I've been waiting 3 years for this, so I got a lot to let out on you, and I'm sorry it's going to be like 4 messages in one. Just view it more like binge watching on Netflix, and we'll be just fine that we're going to go in. But actually, we got a message here that is a few simple verses, but each single verse could be a message in and of itself. And that is in Mark 8:22-25. And we're going to look at how we are going to see 2020 in 2020. How do we see clearly? What is the most important thing in our life for us to be looking at? And that's what we're going to see in these verses here. This is a story of Jesus in his earthly ministry. He is going in, he's taking his disciples around. He is performing miracles. But this is twofold. He's not just trying to perform miracles and get this following of people, but he's really trying to train his disciples, the disciples that are going to stay after he is gone. Now that is a challenge to us. That is our job, is to train disciples as believers so that it continues on after we are gone. And we look at this story here of a miracle he performs, and we could just read it through and gloss over it and be done with it. But today I want to look at it verse by verse because there's a lot of important factors in here we need to understand. Now, sometimes I may get excited in that and put in, but if something you care about, you're going to be energetic and you're going to want everyone to know about it. And that's what I believe about God's word. Yes. Everyone should know about it. They should know all the parts of it, and we should be excited to receive it, even the parts that are convicting to us. So let's read our passage here, Mark 8:22-25. And they came to Bethsaida, and some people to him, a blind man, and they brought him a blind man and begged him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand, and he led them out of the village. And when he had spit out his eyes, he laid his hands on him. He asked him, "Do you see anything?" And he looked and said, "I see people, but they look like trees walking." Then Jesus laid his hands on his eyes again, and he opened his eyes, and his sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Today we're going to answer, what does that mean that he saw everything clearly? Let's go back to the beginning of it. It says, when they came into Bethsaida, some people brought to him a blind man and begged him to touch him. Bethsaida is on the north side of the Sea of Galilee. He's already doing his ministry. He's about 2 years into his earthly ministry. He has it. He's fed the 5,000, the 4,000. He's performed many miracles, and he comes into this city on the north side of the Sea of Galilee. And what we notice first of all here is that some people brought to him a blind man and begged him to touch him. Now, you notice that these people are not listed individually. These people did not come and take selfies and say, "Blind to see. Hashtag miracle, me and Jesus." They didn't drag him to Jesus and want attention for it. They didn't take the picture and say, "Hashtag charity, that's what I do." They brought him. They are not named. But this is the first thing that we notice. The man had a support system. Yes. He had people that cared about him. Yes. How do you know they cared about him? Because they didn't just come and drop him off and walk away. They didn't say like, "Hey, here's some dirty laundry. Throw the blind man at his feet. Jesus will take care of him." He begs. They beg Jesus. They plead with him. It could have just said, "Hey, they came to Jesus. Jesus, will you heal them?" It's very important that he says they beg him. Now this is the answer to the question of people say, why do I need a church home? I'm telling you, on the internet, you're not going to get people that are going to beg before God for you. Amen. And the role of a church is to uplift one another and go before God and beg God to help them in their time of need. Yes. And if we look at this is part of being the body of Christ. This is a part of when we look across these chairs and look across this room, these are people that have come together. Yes, we are flawed, but we have one purpose, and that is to live life together, going and looking at God and God alone. Yes. And that when one falls, we don't pick them apart, kick them out. We lift them up. And we beg before God to heal their wounds. We look at the role of our church body, it is to support. It is to help up and not hold down. We are not in competition with one another. We are cohorts in a battle that we are fighting. Our job is not to tear down for something that was done wrong, but beg on behalf before God for restoration. Do we realize that we were not meant to live this life on our own? God shows us that everywhere. You can't do it on your own. I'm going to tell you that right now. Yes. We can't. We do not have enough strength. God has brought other believers as support, and that is our duty as a church. So let me ask you this question. When is the last time you have looked across this and begged for one of your fellow church members before God to help them? And I'm not talking about the glossing, hey, I'll pray for you. And then next week you see him, oh, God, pray for him. I said I would have. Yes, I pray for you, brother. Come on. We know it's true. Seeing them reminds us, we say the token prayer so we feel good when we tell them. I'm talking about going home and say, you mean something to me. I can't help you, but Jesus can. I know who can help you. I don't have the answers, but I know who does. See, these groups of friends could not heal this man, but they know who could. Yes. And that's why they brought it to him. They said, you have to do this because we can't. And that is our job, to uplift each other, go before the throne and say, God, please heal this person, help this person. They're going through a horrible time. They need you. I can't do it, but you can. Man, would I love to come into a church that does that, would you not? To know that when I walk in those doors, I am supported. They care about me. I'm pleading for them, they're pleading for me. We're doing this life together. That's the church that I envision. That is what is laid out here. That is the example that these people bring and give this blind man a chance by bringing him to Jesus. Now we see what happens next in here. We see that Jesus responds. And that is very important because it says this in verse 23, and he took the blind man by the hand and he led him out of the village. You say, why is that important? Well, for two reasons. It's very important. One is, I don't know about you, but I think the worst thing you could do to help a blind man is go into his house and rearrange the furniture. Just saying. You don't go into his house, redecorate it. Everything is calculated. He knows it's 50 steps to that fridge. He knows where the couch is. We know where we leave the remote. We have everything set up a certain way. Everything is perfectly calculated because that is his comfort zone. That's how he survives. That's how he gets by. It is very important. And if we walk in and say, you know what, that couch really doesn't look right. Let's just move it over here. The man's going to trip and fall. You become a stumbling block. You know what he needs, and that's important because here we have, and we see this point that Jesus is taking him by the hand because he wants the man to be uncomfortable. He wants him to be uncomfortable so that this blind man has nobody else to rely upon but Jesus. Right. He has nothing else. He's taking him out of his comfort zone. He's taking him away from this group of friends and where he continues to go each day, and he's moving him out on his own where the only person that can lead him is Jesus. Boy, does that not sound like what we need? Yeah. We're trying to follow all these other steps when all we need is Jesus. Now here's the thing. It's uncomfortable. Now, we answer these questions, and it's hard. We love comfort.
Yes.
I mean, come on, let's be honest. We love comfort. I mean, I want the lazy boy. Not only that, it kicks back, but it vibrates, it heats. It has a charging port so I don't have to get up, and the armrest opens, and it's a cooler. I don't even have to make my kids go to the fridge. It's right here. I love comfort. It is awesome. I want the heated seats in my car. I am all for self-driving cars because it's too much work for me. I want someone to do it for me. We love comfort. We know that. We have it. And when one thing changes and we're uncomfortable, our world falls apart. Oh, what happened? I can't believe it. And we have this. We're going on our walk of life, and God closes the door. And we have our meeting, our staff meeting with Jesus. We pray before God. God, I had this all written out. Did you not see this plan? It's 4 pages long, in detail. This is how life should go. And Jesus says, that's what you want, but that's not what you need. I'm going to help you out. But it's going to be uncomfortable because I know where you need to be and what is going to prepare you for the task that I have for you. And that's what he says to this blind man. I'm going to take you out of this comfort zone. Now, we hate this in our own life. We do. Spiritually, we hate it. We hate when things don't work out the way we think they should work out. We do. We cry out to God and say, why God? We cry that out. Let's be honest and transparent. That's what we do. And the good news is God answers. And he does help us because he has a plan for everything that we do. D.L. Moody said this about Moses. He spent 40 years thinking he was something in the courts of Pharaoh. He spent 40 years figuring out he was a nobody. He spent the last 40 years of his life seeing what God could do with a nobody. He has the better plan. He has this, and we know it. And we understand this, like I said, in our spiritual time, but we don't want to do it. We understand this in our physical life here in America. You say, how is that? Well, I'm going to show you a picture of how this is. This picture here. In the Hebrew, these are bad mama jammas. I don't know if that's the right translation or not. I don't teach Hebrew, but that's what these guys are. They're called special forces. When things go sideways and we're running away crying, they're running in, taking care of business. We love them.
Yep.
We applaud them for what they do.
Yes, sir.
And here in America, we are extremely proud of them. We want them on our side. Because if he, next slide, shows up at your front door, it's been nice knowing you because it's already over. I'm sorry. It's already done. If you see them and they show up for you, it's done. That's what these guys do. And they're good at what they do. And we're all proud of that. We stand up and we love them for it. But here's the deal. Why are they so good at what they do? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Next picture here. Discomfort. Lots and lots of discomfort. Next one. Drive. Lots and lots of drive. Next picture. They do things that we're too afraid to do. And they do it over and over and over again. And you say, why in the world would they do that? Next slide. Because they believe in something bigger than themselves. They believe that they are not the most important thing on the face of the earth. They believe the person next to them is. They have a drive and discomfort in what they do, and they're willing to break themselves down so that they can be built back up. And they look at it, they say, everything's acceptable except quitting. We understand it's going to be uncomfortable, but we're willing to go through this because we know what lays out ahead of us, and I have to be ready for it. And then they believe in a greater cause. Next slide. They believe it is important to protect the liberties. They believe in America. They believe what it is. They believe in this great nation. They believe it is that important to risk their entire life for it. And we understand this and we go and they're willing to do that. Now here's the thing. We don't want these guys to be back in their barracks eating bonbons. Am I right? We don't want them eating bonbons. We want them being frozen, half drowned, going in there, pushing sleep deprivation, not knowing what's going on because they are getting ready for a battle because they know the evils that are out there in this world and they're going to confront them. Now let me ask you this, Christian. When and how have you prepared yourself for the evils that are out there and going to confront you in your spiritual life? One thing goes wrong, we think God left us. But yet God says, I'm moving you because I'm preparing you. Look, there is a lion out there that is coming as an adversary, the devil. He is not sitting around wanting good fortunes for you. In fact, he is excited when you're at home in the land of comfort in your church eating bonbons.
Yep.
Because then we're complacent. And Jesus says, I know what I need from you. I don't need you comfortable. I need to lead and I need to guide you. And he has that. And that's the second part we notice about him leading. He takes them from comfortable to uncomfortable for a reason. He's about to perform a miracle. But here's the important thing that we got to look at. He leads them. And he never goes away.
Yes.
My God will never leave you nor forsake you, he says. We either believe the whole Bible or we don't. And that as we go through these tough times that we can't explain, we know that God is always there right next to us. And we understand that. Look, Jesus could have gone to the beggar and said, look, hey, this miracle business is drawing a lot of attention. I'm telling you, it's tough work. Here's my card. You meet me at the back gate, 9 p.m. Come alone, and you'll see a miracle. I could have said, hey, you just get yourself to the back gate. I know you're blind, but you get yourself out of the city on your own, and then I'll reward you. No, he doesn't. He leads them by the hand the entire way. And here's the thing, when we go through our life and we don't understand, we're going through things that aren't working out the way we think, God's taking us from comfort to uncomfort because he's building us up, getting us ready for what's coming out in the world so that we can defend against the wickedness that's out there. And we know it is. Turn on your TV. We know it's there. He's getting us ready for it. He's always there with us. And when you look back in your life and you see 2 sets of footprints and then you see one, it's not that God left you. It's that he picked you up and carried you because we're too weak to make it on our own. That is the Jesus that we are talking about. That is the Jesus that we need to see in 2020 clearly. Him and him alone. I can only make it unless I am desperately hanging on to him. Just as this blind man was desperately hanging on to him to make it outside the city. So then he arrives outside the city, and as he goes, this is what happens. And he spit on his hands, and he laid his hands on him, and he asked him, do you see anything? And he looked up and said, I see people, but they look like trees walking. Now, we have this happen here. What happened? Did Jesus mess up? I mean, did he go to heal them and he go to Miyagi and put his hands on them and he just didn't Miyagi enough? Now, I know I just dated myself and half the generation here has no idea who Karate Kid or Mr. Miyagi is. All right, so I'm going to try and update this a little bit. Did Thor's hammer not have enough thunder in it or electrical power to do it? Was he missing a soul stone or something in the glove where Jesus could not perform this miracle? Did he run out of power? No. What we find is Jesus does everything for a purpose. He does everything for a purpose. And this is how I see it at 2 things. Number one, I want to say clearly, Jesus never makes a mistake. Society may say someone's a mistake or they're not worth being born and we should have no sanctity of life. But I'm telling you this, no matter how they're born, Jesus uses them because they're created by him. and they serve a purpose. What the world throws out as yesterday's trash, that's what Jesus uses as his treasure. Jesus never makes a mistake. This is what I think happened. And yes, this is an Arianism that's there that I'm about to share with you. This is how I see things in the Bible. I see Jesus leading this blind man here, but they are not alone. There's somebody with them. There's a group of people with them called the disciples. Now, this is how I see it. As he's walking this blind man, he's watching the actions of the disciples. We are like the disciples. You say, how so? These disciples walking are probably like, all right, here we go again. Yay. Your faith shall set you free. Jesus, touch him. Blind. Oh, cute, crying. Oh, Jesus, you're wonderful. I can see. And he runs away. You say, no, that's not possible. Oh, yes, it is. They have been with him in his ministry. They have seen it all. They've seen the feeding of 5,000, the 4,000. They've seen 2 blind people already healed in Matthew 9:27-31 and Matthew 12:22. They've seen this happen where he speaks and they see. They've seen all this, water into wine. They've seen all these miracles happen, and they're just like us. They get bored quick. They do. They're over here murmuring and complaining. Now, I'm telling you, Jesus is walking them, and I know he never sinned, but if I were Jesus, it would make me angry, okay? Because I know this. I used to coach basketball, and I'm telling you, I'd be setting up a play. We'd be in the half court of practice, and I'd be working with 2 people. I want to set up a high pick and roll, and I'm working with these 2, and I look over the shoulders of my players, and I see the other 3 guys messing around. I'm telling you, nothing irritates me more than that. Everyone pay attention. You know, we want to make a point. You know how it is. You're at work. You're trying to explain how something goes. And someone who's been on the job for 2 weeks, they got all the answers. Yeah, why listen to me? I've only been doing this 10 years. But sure, you got it. You know how it is. You get irritated with it too. And here, Jesus is trying to get a point. And you say, how do you know this? Because the passage right before it, right before they enter the city in Mark 8, verse 17-21, they're talking about one of the disciples forgot a loaf of bread. And in verse 17 it says this, and Jesus, aware of this discussion, said to them, why are you discussing the fact that you have no bread? Do you not yet perceive or understand? Are your hearts hardened? Having eyes, do you not see? And having ears, do you not hear? And do you not remember when I broke the 5 loaves to feed the 5,000, and many baskets were full and broken pieces, and you take them up? They said, how many? 12. And 7 for the 4,000. How many baskets of full broken pieces did you take up? And they said to him, 7. And he said to them, do you not yet understand? What did they not understand? Who Jesus was.
Yes.
They were looking for the answers in temporal and all these things. They could not see who Jesus was. So at this time, Jesus wants to show and teach them one more step of faith. Here he leads this blind man. He performs a miracle. He can see, but he can't see clearly. And so what happens here? And he wants them to pay attention because, wait, it's out of the norm. And you say, I would never get tired of anything like that. How could disciples do that? How many remember the day when you only saw fireworks on the 4th of July? Huh? Yeah, I'd wait around all for that as a kid. That would be it. That's the greatest thing. We see fireworks for everything now. I mean, high school stadiums got it. I mean, we want bigger and better. We see fireworks, it's like, someone's blowing off fireworks, we keep driving. I mean, it's just not as special as it once was. We need bigger and better to take further. We need some pyrotechnics. You know, I was at the Suns game, and I want the flames. I want to feel the heat where it's almost singeing my eyebrows. Then I'm into it. We want the show. We want bigger and better. Human nature did not change from where the disciples are here. They wanted bigger and better, but this catches their attention. Wow, maybe Jesus, something's wrong here. Something's not right. But then we see what we have here in verse 25. Then Jesus laid his hands on his eyes again, and he opened his eyes, and his sight was restored, and he saw everything. We must know this: Jesus does not leave us lacking or without. Jesus promises to complete every good work that is in us. He will not leave us half done. You know, sometimes we get so many distractions in our life that are good things that we just miss out on Jesus. We just do. We allow things to get in our way that just cloud our vision. We may see, but we're not seeing clearly. I'll give you this example here. I've had the privilege, as some of you have, of this great thing called renovations. And I don't know about you, but one of the best, most exciting renovations that I get just out of bed for, nothing beats tile demolition. Where someone has a crazy idea, they want to chisel out all their tile, and they want all the flooring to be the same. I've done this. I've had friends that I've gone over for, and we're over there. There's 4 of us. We're just jackhammering out all this tile. Guys are picking up tile. They're carrying it out. But then the real fun begins, the thin set. And you go grinding that thing down, and you can imagine dust is just pouring out. You're wearing your mask. You got your goggles on. And eventually get to the point where you just can't see. And you go walking outside, and you take off those goggles, and you can see exactly where they were. Everything just filled, covered, and it's all clear here. You know, sometimes that's life to us. We get in and we're working, we're doing all this stuff. It may be good stuff, but it's not godly stuff. We may be even serving in a church, but we lost the joy of serving in the church, and it just becomes monotony, and we forgot why we're doing it. And we don't cry out and say, God, take off these glasses so I can see you clearly. Touch my eyes again so I can know the joy of my salvation. That everything I do goes to one purpose and one purpose alone. It's Him. It's only Him. Now I look at this and I think, how does this apply all to us? And that's this. Husband and wife, if we want our marriage to be stronger, you got to see Jesus clearly first. You need to be seeking Jesus. Parents, you know, I love my kids. You love your kids. But your first priority is not your kids' happiness. They can accomplish all of these great things. And we're proud of them for it. And we want them to work hard. But I'm telling you, if our kids leave our homes and after 18 years, we haven't pointed them to the most important thing that will make them truly successful in life, which is Jesus, we failed. We failed. And I want my kids to be happy. I want them to be good, but I don't want to be good. I want them to be godly. And we parents need to cry out. We know what's out there for them. We know what the world has for them, which is nothing. But we know what Jesus has for them, which is everything. And we need to be praying and seeking Him. Touch our eyes, God. And young person, you're sitting in here, I want you to know this is not an adult religion that your parents drag you to church. I don't hate hearing kids say, yeah, I go to my parents' church. Yeah, I follow my dad's religion. I want you to know this is a personal, real relationship with you and Jesus. Right. You and Jesus. And you are not too young to start thinking that way. And as you make decisions about what am I going to do with my future, do we ever consult Jesus, touch my eyes and show me what I should do? How can I best serve you? I get it. I want success. I want you to be in a great career. I want you to have a great job. But I don't want you to get to the end of that and realize I've got nothing without Jesus. I want you to know right now, Jesus will guide and direct you. It may be uncomfortable, but He will always be there for you. Longtime Christian, you know, we've been saved for years. And I throw myself into it, and we do a lot. I mean, you worked on the bus ministry when they still had them at churches. There isn't a potluck you haven't attended. There isn't a casserole you haven't created or tasted. I mean, you're all over. You're born and bred. You've been there. You got 2 t-shirts to prove what you've gone through. You're still wiping off kids' snot from your arm and cleansing your hands from all your tours of duty in the nursery. But something happens in all that service.
Yes, sir.
Something happens. We lose the joy of that service because the focus shifts from why I'm doing it to point them to Jesus onto this is tiresome for me. I can't believe I have to do it. And the focus comes on us. And we as a church should cry out as a church, God, touch my eyes again that I can see you clearly.
Yes.
Not just fashioning for an hour a week, but I can see you clearly that you are my priority in life. You are my life. And that's what he did for this blind man. He opened his eyes. And when he saw clearly, it wasn't just his vision. He saw Jesus for who he was. Now, it would be remiss if I didn't continue the story and tell you the rest. Because if you are here and maybe you've been searching and you're like, who is this Jesus? Why is he screaming about touching my eyes? What does that mean to be open? I don't understand. But I want to tell you what this Jesus did to help you understand. This Jesus goes on and serves for another year. He goes and his earthly ministry ends at a place called the cross. And where he does this insane thing that I still cannot understand. He takes my place on that cross because he loves me that much. Because God sent him to earth for one mission and one mission alone, and that was us. And that was his clear focus. He never lost sight of that. And it was so powerful that even at the cross, the centurion guarding him looks up at Jesus and says, surely this is the Son of God.
Yes.
And while he hangs there, even the thief on the cross next to him has his eyes open and says, remember me. Remember me. And Jesus, true to his word, says, today you shall be with me in paradise. And then he dies. He's buried, but he performs the greatest miracle of all times. He rises again.
Yes.
In order to provide salvation for us that we may be with him for all eternity. And the shocking thing is he offers it as a free gift to you and to me. And if you're wondering at this time, is that gift for me? The answer is yes. Is there a time? The time is now. In a moment here, we're going to open this invitation. And at this time of invitation, I want to ask you, church, once again, when is the last time that we have gone and we have asked God to open our eyes, to renew our vision so that we can see things the way that they need to be seen? In a moment here, we're going to have people up front. We're going to have a time of invitation. And I'll invite you, if you do not have a church home, this is a support group you need. And we would love for you to be a part of it. You can join today. Maybe you're sitting here and you're like, I just want to pray for renewed vision, that God would touch my eyes again. You can come forward and pray. Maybe this is a time of salvation. You say, God is leading me, he's opening the door. We will have someone here who can help you. I ask you all to stand as we close in prayer.